Yoga is not a magical cure for illness or disease. For example, I see a lot of reels where they say, do this asana and cure your PCOS.
Today we have Komal Dubey with us. Komal is a yoga professional. Now we know that yoga is a way of life, but Komal has more to say, so let's find out. Hello Komal, thank you so much for joining in the Buff podcast. So Komal, tell us something about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I mean, we've interacted on Twitter a bunch of times. I'm a yoga teacher, and currently I'm also trying to add a lot of other services within the coaching that I provide. So I mainly take asana practice sessions, but eventually I also want to foray into taking strength training sessions, animal flow sessions. So everything movement related. That's about it. That's me.
Super, super. So, Komal, what give us a little background on what made you take up the profession of yoga and how did you come through to this profession after all these years?
Obviously, as I think most people in this field, this isn't the original plan that most of us have, right? So I've always been into some sort of sport since I was very young, and I've always been very active. But it's not something that I always thought, like I ever thought that, oh, this can be a career, because that's not how you're brought up. Like, especially like as an Indian, you have to like study and, have a very well-defined career path. So I also, went through that entire thing as well. But I still kept being active, and fitness and sport was still an important part of my life throughout college. So I studied law. And during my law college time is when I got introduced to my yoga teacher then. And it was very by chance. It was very random, to be honest. And why I joined yoga that time was very stupid. Like, I just wanted to learn how to stand on my head and do a headstand because I saw a poster. And I just enjoyed it so much because I didn't learn a headstand in that one class, but I just felt so different after that session that I just wanted to continue. So I ended up learning with her for 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, I went through this chaotic type of period where it was also when I was graduating, like I graduated from college. And I had started out like if you're in law college, you kind of intern right from the first year. So you're essentially working since you're 18. Okay. Especially because I didn't go to like a big university. I went through a very local law college. So if you don't work, then you don't get a job. So, you were always working here and there. So after my 5 years, I wanted to take a break and kind of explore fitness and fitness related certifications. But of course, my parents are like, are you crazy? Because they didn't understand it. So, which I found fair because, nobody's done that. But while I was on probation period, while I was working at another place, kind of an internship, kind of at the end of it, I knew that I would get a job. I kind of just quit randomly, and I was still continuing with my yoga practice that time. And my teacher encouraged me to get certified in Mysore. And then I got certified, and even then I didn't think that I would teach. I just did it because I thought maybe I can apply for my masters, and yoga teaching can be a side hustle because I realized I really enjoy teaching in that course. And I thought, yeah, I can do that. And when I came back, I started assisting a few teachers while applying for my masters. But then things just fell into place. I started teaching on my own. People started coming into classes, and eventually I just decided that this is something that I want to do full time. That's it. So it's just lined up one after the other, to be honest. Like, I did have a desire to be into this active and fitness space, but it's not something that I did like intentionally at the start.
That's a revelation. In fact, I did not know that you were studying for being a lawyer. Do you miss that field sometimes, Komal?
Absolutely not. In one thing, maybe like initially, I have to say, and sometimes what does affect you, because I think you might also understand because you've been a freelancer, a freelance trainer, that the income and security is not as much as a full-time job. So, that specific number they get at the end of every month is not something I was getting. Even now it fluctuates. Now, of course, like you have a certain base, but at least that was a big insecurity, and sometimes still is now, where I regret that, hey, maybe that would have given me more security. But if I'll be very honest, would I choose my current, like, I just feel so content on certain days and just happy. So would I choose this with a little bit lesser money over that? The answer is yes. Like, yeah, because you only realize that that fun of actually doing something you love when you're actually doing it. So it's okay to have a little bit of uncertainty in income sometimes, but I'd rather be doing what I'm doing now than be maybe stuck at a place where I'd just be thinking, what if I had done the other thing? So I don't think I miss that feel. Maybe I miss the security and certainty of the money. That's about it though.
I did read this one quote that said, people are always obsessed about numbers. They don't ask if you are happy.
Yeah, that is so true. And you don't realize that till you start growing older. I think you think that's very cliche in your early 20s. Now I'm in my late 20s, edging towards 30 now. And the more you get older and you look around you, you see the result of how people spend their 20s. And I know people who are earning so well, who are so, rich and who have nothing to worry about, but they're constantly like, they're still worried like about something. They're not really happy, they're not trying, they're constantly living in fear, and they're very lost because they spent so much of their time just chasing that number and chasing the career progression that somewhere they lost who am I, like what do I like, and they don't know that, and then they have to spend the next bunch of years discovering that, forgetting that this is the most important part of your life. Like of course security is important, but you are going to feel lost if you don't kind of have that connection with what you like as a person, especially as years pass by. So you're so right. Yeah, people don't question that.
Well, now I see that yoga is an up and coming craft. Because you are a professional, what should beginners know about starting the practice of yoga?
Just like any field, I feel like if you have a teacher at the start, it is much better because they give you a direction in your practice. And they will also give you a direction if you want to go further in the career. So, for example, when I started out, yoga was still not as popular as a legitimate field that people chose, like to, teach. It was not something people actually heard of that much. And so right now, I do get a lot of questions from younger people, where they're like, oh, I want to do yoga as a career. How did you do it? Now, I don't think I'm even the right person to ask because years back, this is not a career I chose. It's just something I stumbled upon. But what helped me that time was a teacher. So when I had questions and I had uncertainties and doubts about the certification or, my own practice, I had someone to look to. So as a beginner, the best thing you can do for yourself is explore different types of yoga teachers and classes. You may not like all. And then if you vibe with a certain class and a teacher, stick with them for some time, ask them your questions. And just starting out with the teacher and progressing with them, you'll also end up being curious to learn a lot of things about the field and about the practice on your own, and then things will happen. So, my main advice would definitely be to enroll under a teacher. If not, and if you just want to start and dive into getting a certification, at this point, you can just Google TTCs in India. And the thing is, there are so many variety of TTCs. You'll have to see a lot of factors: your budget, the duration you want to do it, the location. Now it's online also. I've never done online, so I can't say on that. But you can check if online is more feasible for you. And then once you have these things in mind, enroll for the course. But take action. Either join a teacher or choose a certification course and then just go for it. And then whether you do yoga or not full time, I don't know. But at least you'll start the journey of learning. That's all I would say.
Right. So in that case, because I have never done yoga in my life, and obviously I do not know the field as much as you, right? It's a specialty. Plus, it has a lot of branches. It has a lot to teach, and there are certain semantics. There are certain techniques to do certain asanas, which obviously alone I cannot master that. If I have to start out yoga, what are the benefits that I can kind of expect out of it?
When people talk about yoga, the first thing they think of is asana because that is the most popular part of the yoga practice, and of course it's also the most easy to access. So yoga is like a holistic system that involves your physical body, so that means your physical health and fitness, your breath, but eventually you do asana and pranayam so that you can go on to other parts of yoga which deal with your inner world. So different stages of meditation. So a lot of people have this thing that yoga starts and ends only at asana. But asana is actually just the entry point of what yoga is. And yoga is very vast. In fact, sometimes you may not even enjoy asana practice. you can still be a yoga practitioner, because that's just one phase of the entire philosophy. You can access yoga through different parts as well. You can do bhakti yoga, karma yoga. So there are lots of different things, firstly. So yoga is not just asana. If you get into it, you can asana is just more accessible because it's to do with the physical body. So if you're entering yoga through this doorway of asana, the benefits that you can experience are just like any exercise, to be honest. If you're a beginner and if you don't move that much, then there's a lot of strengthening, there's a lot of flexibility, and there's also an emphasis on being aware of your breath. So that's a little different from other forms of training, in my experience. And that leads to a lot of transformation, because you notice that a lot of people now, they're always in a rush. They're always in a rush. There's always something else to do, one after the other. So when you come to a yoga class, this exercise of grounding yourself within your breath, knowing what everything is doing from your toes to your fingers, and being only focused on what your physical body is doing, your breath is doing, your mind is doing, is actually very difficult when you're constantly on the go. So it gives a chance for your nervous system to kind of get grounded and relaxed. So that leads to a lot of course, physical fitness and health in the long term, because asana practice is a form of resistance training, just a different form than maybe lifting weights. And when it comes to mental health, it also gives you a lot of calmness and mental clarity, which is something that is very, very missing in today's time. So, mental health gets better, posture gets better. If you've never moved at all, you'll see a lot of differences where you feel a little bit more energetic. You'll just feel like you're getting stronger. And of course, you're not going to feel that though if you're just doing asana practice randomly. Just like in lifting weights at the gym, there is a way that you progressively overload your body. Same thing happens in asana practice. There's a system where you slowly make the practice a little bit more challenging so that your body can get stronger over time. So I hope like I did a very quick summary of what I think beginners should know of yoga when they don't know anything about it. But I hope I've tried to do justice, but I still may have not covered everything.
Very helpful, in fact, because a lot of people, we like you have cleared some of the doubts, but I'm coming to the next question. It's just that even I have had inhibitions about, okay, how do I start? And the thing about having a teacher, it's funny because I've had coaches, and having a yoga teacher did not even strike my mind. Like, okay, see, you can have a yoga teacher as well, just like you've had a coach. So that's how you can get started without being nervous. So we're talking about benefits. Now we know that internet is filled with lot of misinformation. So what are the most common myths regarding yoga? Please bust them.
This is my favorite topic because there is, and I don't know why, especially when it comes to yoga, there is so much said in the name of yoga, and it's so distorted because of it now. So let's see, like there is so much to start with. So it's difficult, this one. But okay, number one, asana is the only way of doing yoga. If you are not interested in asana practice, that's fine. You can go to the gym and you can still call yourself a yoga practitioner, because yoga is a philosophy and a way of living your life. So it's okay if asana is not for you. You can still do whatever else you want, but still live according to the yogic principles. And you're still a yoga practitioner. So number one, asana is not equal to yoga. Number two, yoga is not a magical cure for illness or disease. For example, I see a lot of reels where they say, do this asana and cure your PCOS. Do yoga to cure diabetes. Do yoga. I recently saw one which said, do this asana to get pregnant. And I'm like, that's definitely not
And
how
that
you
reel
get
has
pregnant.
1 million views.
Yeah, so that's not how any of it works, and it's pretty sad to see that people have to resort to this to sell you. You don't need to do this to sell yoga. Like on its own, yoga is strong enough and its actual benefits, rather than lying about it. Like let's not lie about it. So whenever someone puts up these videos, I always ask, okay, but how? Because explain to me how doing this asana will, so that's not cool. Like yoga is not going to be a magical cure to your illness or disease. And number three, I've often also seen this narrative that, yoga se hoga, yoga se hi hoga.
आसना प्रैक्टिस से आपकी बॉडी स्ट्रांग रहती है, फ्लेक्सिबल रहती है, प्राणायाम के भी बहुत फायदे हैं, पर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि आपको डॉक्टर की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी.
Where there is almost a sense of superiority, where people will see others going to the gym and they'll be like, ये सब जिम में कुछ नहीं होता, योगा करो, योगा ही बेस्ट है. And I don't understand that, because it is not even yogic to think that yoga is superior to other fields. It makes no sense to me because yoga is just very different from other things that you're doing. Like you're comparing like apple and orange, like two completely different things, right? So it's not that yoga is superior, asana practice is superior form of movement than other things. Absolutely not. And it also doesn't make sense to compare it to lifting weights or the gym. I feel both are extremely necessary, and you should be building a lot of muscle, and a lot of asana practitioners would actually benefit if they lift weights, and vice versa. A lot of gym goers will benefit if they do asana practice. So there's nothing like yoga is more superior than the others.
So now we are just almost towards the end of the podcast. But before we just conclude, Komal, would you like to give certain words of encouragement to people who are beginners in the field of yoga or people who would want to just start this practice?
My favorite thing to tell everybody who starts, and even myself when I'm not feeling like it, is just to show up. And I'm not even saying they have to give 100% every day. No, all I want you to do is to show up consistently. If that means that you make a promise to yourself that I want to start anything, if it's yoga practice, yoga asana practice, you want to go to the gym, you want to start walking, and you're not doing anything right now, you've given yourself a promise, like I promise myself to start this. Do it every single day, even if it's for 10 minutes in one day, and another day maybe you're doing 90 minutes, another day you're doing 60 minutes, but do it. Like, I'd rather that people show up and put in small doses of effort rather than, doing 100% for 10 days and then disappearing completely. So my only advice is to show up consistently, and eventually, these small doses of effort lead to a huge gain in the long term. So that's about it. It's not as complicated as people make it out to be. Just keep showing up. That's it.
I have to ask you a quick rapid fire round. It's a this or that. Just choose one. Okay, really quick, no thinking. Okay.
Ready?
So, plain coffee or premium tea?
Plain coffee.
Settling in Dubai or settling in India?
Oof, tough one. Settling in India, though.
Give up running or give up weights?
Give up running. Easy. Easy.
Okay, so you have just 1 hour and you have to spend the time with someone. Spend with Varnit or with Kapil?
Oh God, this is going to. Okay, I'm going to choose Kapil because he cooks tasty food and I'll get to eat a lot of treats at his place. Yes. This is why you've called me on this podcast.
Twitter has been labeled as X. So, what are some of your peeves, pet peeves on X?
I can see this so easily. I hate it when people DM me just saying hi. I don't want to reply to the hi. Just say what you want from me. Like sometimes I do reply, but so irritating. Just, random people, hi. Just say what you want from me. So that's one. And second is, man, I don't know if you've experienced this, but there's so many random bots that reply to your tweet now, and it's all like saying random rubbish or nudes in my profile. Like I hate that so like every time you mute one, there'll be more. But these are the two pet peeves. But I love that app so much, so it's not too much. Like even if it annoys me, I have like a toxic relationship with it. I think I'll still be on it and using it.
So, basically, if you had to give up Instagram or X, that would be.
Oh, Instagram, easy.
I really like a lot of your reels where you explain certain practices in a very cinematic format. And I do watch them as well. And I additionally also like the reels where you're busting the myths. So I really hope that you keep both of them up because both of them are very useful, even for someone like me. I'm looking at it in a beginner's perspective. So I also get to learn from them.
That's so sweet. Thank you. But I think just as you watch me, I watch what you do and I really enjoy it. I enjoy watching how you juggle your pack. It's very rare to see a person exploring different things that they love and not just sticking to one lane. Like it's not just fitness for you. You do so many other things. And you're so talented. And I'm just like, that's pretty cool because personally, I know that it's a struggle to manage the time. So it's pretty incredible that, you're able to do this much. And also, like, it's not that I ever see you low or, like that. You're just constantly hype. And I'm like, dude, you're like, it's like you're constantly high on coffee, but like without the coffee. And it's pretty cool. So I think your energy is very infectious and I also, love watching you online. And yeah, I'm also inspired a lot by how you end up juggling and managing a lot of things on your plate.
We have to meet offline. I mean, we just
100%.
live close by. Yeah, we just live 3 hours away. So what are the few things that you really like about Dubai per se?
Oh, I really like. So a lot of times I think of Dubai as like a cleaner Mumbai because it does give me that vibe where it's just a city, but it's just that it's clean, it's more organized, and because of which the lifestyle kind of feels better, just because the infrastructure of the city is so nice and it makes life kind of easier. That's one thing that I really like about Dubai. For example, in Mumbai, even to commute from one place to another, it's like a lot of planning and an extra amount of time that you have to account for. For Dubai, I think that okay, I want to go from here till here. If the maps will even if it's like super far, maps will literally tell you like 25, 30 minutes flat and you're there. So I really like that convenience. So that's the main thing I like about this place, convenience and just lifestyle because of good infrastructure in the city. And second thing, of course, is just the possibility of earning money. And you can earn way more living here as compared to living in Mumbai. And of course, I'm not saying that life is not challenging here as well. Of course, you still have that initial period of hustle that you'll have to put in. But it's still much more money you'd make here. And even if you come here and you're making the equal amount of money as Mumbai, the difference is you're still living a better quality of life here. So that I feel is a good bargain. One thing that is really not nice about the city though is the weather. Like apart from November to Feb, those are the only months which are very good. The rest of the time it's extremely hot. So if you're okay, as an Indian though, I think you'll be okay with that, especially if you're already living in Mumbai, Delhi. So if you're used to that, then it's a good city to live in.
That definitely sums up a lot about Komal. Today, I've actually learned a lot about you because I never had the chance to really talk to you, DMU, because, of course, you're busy and you do sometimes mention about some of your trials, tribulations, your adventures during the Mumbai monsoon. So I usually feel that it's not appropriate to, say, like, hey, Komal, what's up? How you doing?
Oh, you can always do that. I'm always up for it. You can always do that. Like ignore the chick I do on social media, but I'm always up for like a chat. And but for you, for some reason, like since when you talk to someone online for a couple of months and years, I just feel like you know them. Like, of course, you
Yes.
don't know them, but it doesn't feel like I have met you for the first time. I just feel like, yeah, we've been
Hey, I
talking.
know you. Hey, I
Like,
know
I
you.
just see you on my TL so much and since so much time, and I'm just like, yeah, I know you. So it's very familiar, and I really like that about online friendships, I think. So it doesn't feel like I have to be shy or awkward. I just feel like, oh, yeah, I know you.
That's true. That's exactly how I have felt about a lot of my online friends. Even Kapil, last time when I had
Yeah.
taken the podcast with Kapil, it was like, oh, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, so that's a good thing. And that's something maybe a lot of people who aren't very active online don't completely understand that once you see people for years, because I refer to a lot of the online mutuals that I see for some time as Twitter friend or Instagram friend. And my parents are like, what? Like, what does that mean? And I'm like, yeah, it's a friendship. It's not that deep yet, maybe, but it's a friendship, it's there. So
Any last words for our viewers?
last word is to just keep moving, do some sort of movement in your life, whether it's going to the gym, running, yoga, keep moving and keep following us both so that you get inspired and our follower count also increases. But that's about it. I don't have many wise things to share beyond this.
Thank you so much, Komal, for giving your precious time on a Sunday, that too Sunday. And I will edit this soon, and this will be up on the Buff Homia podcast channel. And please follow both of us. Follow Komal as well. I will link her handles on the screen. And thank you so much, Komal, once again. And this time I have to meet you offline.
100%. Thank you so much for having me. And I don't think it was a big decision for me to spend Sunday doing this. I enjoy talking to you so much. So I think like I'm beginning my day with your energy. So I'm feeling good.
Super. So, dear viewers, I'll catch you soon.